All right, welcome back, everyone. This is our second time together talking about the image of God and how God breaks out of our boundaries and boxes and transcends things and is bigger than we could ever imagine. And last time, if you remember, we talked about how sometimes we end up sort of squishing God into a box. And we talked about how we could listen to what we know about God and how we experience God, and that can help center us and orient us in breaking out of that box and letting God be as big as we truly know God to be. And we talked about noticing when those barriers or obstacles are showing up so that we can be attentive to them and not let them impact our image and experience and relationship with God. And so today we're continuing on that, and we're talking specifically about a concept called Imago Dei, and that means the image of God. And that takes us all the way back to the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis chapter 1. And so many of us know this experience or know this story so well. God created the earth and all the days. And this day God does this, and this day God does that. And God separates the dry land from the seas. And God separates the light from the dark and the earth from the heavens, and all of these kind of seeming divisions. And then all at the end, the culmination is God creates humankind in their image and creates them male and female. And sometimes we forget to think very hard about this text or this story. And sometimes we might get stuck, and we might box ourselves in to a binary or literal interpretation of that story. And we start spinning our wheels about, was it really 7 days, and how could that happen? And are these days that are our length of days and what I know? And what about this binary? And sometimes, many times, people use that text also to harm our LGBTQ community members and say, well, this is a binary of male and female. And that's when we have to step back and remember what we know about God, and the God that is bigger and transcends human ideas and allows for all creation to flourish. And so instead, let's think about this text and this story for what it is. This is an origin story told for centuries and generations, millennia, started by an ancient community to help them explore and understand who is God, who are we, and how are we in relationship as people with God? And so when we start to apply modern understandings of science or history or facts, we start focusing on those questions, which are not the questions at the heart of this story and when this story was created and the meaning of this story for people across all time and places. We have to go back to connecting again with our knowing, and what do we know and how do we experience God and creation? We know that it's not just dry land and wet seas. We know that there are swamps and marshes and streams and rivers and lakes. We know that there's more than day and night. There's also twilight and dusk. We know that even at night, the sky's different levels of darkness, when there is a new moon and when there is no moon. We know that there is a sun that is up in the day, a sun to rule the day and stars to rule the night. But we also know there's planets and galaxies and universes, and that just keeps expanding too. So let us return to what we know and how we see God, and let God be as big and beautiful as we know God to be. And then let's return again to that final part of that story with the creation of humans. The text says, even as we talked about last time with how often male pronouns have been put into Scripture, All of the English translations say, let us create them in our image, according to our likeness. Then God said, let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness. So God created humankind in God's image. In the image of God, God created them. Male and female, God created them. God blessed them. God saw everything God had made, and indeed, it was very good. We see reflected in that text in the very first chapter of the Bible, it reminds us God is plural, God is triune, God is a collective. And humanity is a collective and reflective of that expansive, transcending God. And we can apply that then to our understanding of gender. Just because it says male and female, if we thought, wait, we know about marshes, and we know about swamps, and we know about dusk and twilight, we also know that about humankind. We don't come in one prototype that gets replicated and cloned. That applies to gender. We are cis and het and queer, and we are non-binary, we are male or female, or we are trans. We are all these different things, and it's not just about gender either. Humanity is not defined only by that. That text doesn't talk about personality and ability and disability and language and race and culture, and it doesn't talk about the ways that we transcend the things that people have put people in boxes, like documentation status and nationality. But what we know about humankind, and that we know that humankind reflects God's image, humankind is diverse and expansive and wonderful and beautiful and a multitude and a collective. And so tonight, in your groups, you'll explore this a little bit more, and you'll connect to what you did last time. But I really ask you to think about, what does Scripture and what does your knowing and experience combine to help reveal about ourselves? What might we know if we know that we are made in the image of God? And what do we learn about God when we look at humanity and know that humans are made in the image of God? Thanks for